The Unwanted, Chapter 4, April 28th, 1975. After Lum left, my mother sat still for several hours. Her facial expression did not change. Luan held us in her arms as we clustered together on the floor of the van. I watched night fall over the city while the fire, the explosions, and the screaming went on. As I sat on the steel floor with my hands firmly pressed against my ears, everything seemed to fade away. My surroundings were no longer real to me. It was as if I were inside a silent movie with a black and white background. The soundless, colorless, odorless calmness stayed with me until my mother announced that it was time for us to head back home. The evening seemed to sedate the nervous city. As we ventured along the dark street, the throbbing frenzy subsided. Most of the streetlights had been broken earlier, and many of them were off due to the lack of electricity. All around us, dark shadows were moving through the night. We could not tell if they were looking through the corpses to identify and gather up their departed relatives, or if, like hungry wolves, they were simply hunting for treasure. Once in a while, a ray of light splashed across the sky, followed by the rumbling thunder of a bomb, or a grenade, or a rifle, sending a wave of vibration out to the surrounding area. It was not very far from the van to our home, but it took us a good 2 hours to get through the congested streets. Cars and trucks were mounted on top of one another in heaps of wasted steel, blocking one road after another. In the house, my grandparents were still hiding in the basement. They saw us right away through the tiny oval window and hurried up the stairs to let us in. In just a few hours, my grandparents had somehow managed to age 10 years. Strength seemed to have abandoned them entirely. "Where's Lum?" was the first question they asked. My mother shrugged. "I'm not sure. We had a fight in the van and he ran off. He was heading to the airport." "Bastard," my grandfather muttered. "What are you going to do now?" my grandmother asked. "I don't know." My mother shook her head. "I think we just have to stay here and see." My grandfather looked at my mother. He spoke, choosing his words carefully, as he did not want my brother and me to panic. "We've been listening to the radio. Saigon is going to give up. The military is about to collapse. The other side is gaining so much power. It seems that nothing and no one can stop them now. Whatever you decide to do, you better do it now. You have only till tomorrow, and the general has advised that everyone stay put, since it could get very ugly in the next couple of days." "After you left, Mrs. Duong phoned," my grandmother said. The string of beads was still moving slowly between her fingers. "She asked for you. You might want to give her a call." My mother nodded. "Okay, I'll do it right now." She picked up the phone and listened for a few seconds, then slammed it down in frustration. "The phone is dead," she exclaimed angrily. Turning to my grandmother, she asked, "Did she say anything to you, Mother?" "Yes. She said something about waiting for a helicopter. She also asked for my passport, but I said you took them all. Then she just hung up. It was at least 4 or 5 hours ago." My mother peeked out across the deserted street. She bit her lower lip thoughtfully. Her hand lay on top of her belly, caressing the silky fabric of her dress, as we all watched her and waited. After a long time, she came to a conclusion. Pushing us toward my grandparents, she spoke carefully to them. "Mother, Father, watch the children for me. I am walking over to the Duong's house. I will be back in a while." "Please don't," my grandmother cried. "You can't go out. It's too dangerous. You can't leave the kids here with us," my grandfather added. From a corner, with her face hidden in the shaded wall, Luan spoke up. Her voice was low as usual, but clear. "Madame Kuhan, I am still your servant. Whatever you need to do, please use me. With your permission, I would like to go to the Duong's house instead of you. I can take whatever news you wish to your friends." My mother looked up at Luan. A flash of astonishment brushed across her face, as if she saw the maid standing there for the first time. She walked over to Luan. Her hand reached out to caress Luan's face, but only the tips of her nails touched the girl's skin. Nevertheless, Luan recoiled from my mother's hand. She looked frightened. "Are you sure?" my mother asked. Luan nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "Then go," my mother said. "Go with my blessing and hurry back." The girl walked toward the door, but stopped. Slowly, she turned to face my mother again. With great difficulty and awkwardness, she chewed on her nails and spoke at the same time. However, her words were clear and loud. "If I don't come back in half an hour, I might be in some sort of trouble. You then can stop waiting for me and start thinking of another plan. Madame Kuhan, there is something I have been meaning to tell you but never found the right time. Please let me get it off my chest before I go. I want to apologize to you for what happened between me and Lum." My mother shifted uncomfortably as Luan continued. "I didn't mean for you to find out that way. The night you came into my room, back when we were in Nha Trang, but I couldn't stop it. I never could refuse him. He was too strong, and he was very violent, and he threatened to kick me out on the street if I didn't comply. I never meant to hurt you, madam, not in my life, not as long as I lived under your roof, and I beg for your forgiveness before I go." She began to cry bitterly. "Don't worry, Luan." My mother shook her head. "It is all forgotten. He is gone. It doesn't matter anymore. Just take care of yourself. We are all going to pray for you. We need you to come back to us." "Yes, ma'am," was all she said before disappearing into the darkness outside. An hour later, Luan kept her promise to us. She returned with one of Mrs. Duong's servants. They were both out of breath from running through the streets. A touch of fear was still visible on their faces. As soon as they got inside the door, my mother asked, "What is going on? Did they leave? Did you find Monsieur or Madame Duong? Do you know where they are?" "I saw Mrs. Duong," Luan said, panting. "She was still waiting at home. She has something for you." She took a letter from inside her blouse and handed it to my mother, who grabbed it and read it out loud. "Dear Kuhan, I don't know whether I should be happy or sad upon hearing the latest news about you and your family. When I phoned your house and talked to your mother this afternoon, I was under the impression that you were probably on your way to Thailand by now. Then Luan came in with a message that you had for me. Apparently you have missed the last flights out of Saigon. I listened to the whole report about the event on the evening news. My heart was torn with mixed feelings. On the one hand, I was happy for myself, since it meant that I am no longer alone, and at least you are here sharing this hardship with me. But on the other hand, I am quite sad for your unfortunate situation. You have suffered a great deal in such a short time. Then again, so have we, darling. Let me tell you what has happened to me since our last meeting 2 days ago. As you know, for some time, my husband was trying to get our 2 sons and me the necessary passports to leave the country. Unfortunately, with respectful thanks to our postal system, my application was the only one that got lost in the mail. As awful as I am feeling right now, I can't possibly blame Duong, since he tried his best to pull any strings while he still could get me out of this godforsaken place. Yesterday, after my children received their passports, an opportunity of a lifetime fell upon them. They were allowed to leave Saigon on the last U.S. helicopter with some U.S. diplomats, one of which was Duong's friend and confidant for several years. This American friend of his advised us that I shouldn't tag along on the trip, since I was the only one on board without the right papers. I could very well be the cause of troubles for all of them once we got to Bangkok customs. These were important ambassadors, and they took every precaution in avoiding risk for the sake of their own safety. So there I was, standing on the rooftop of the embassy building, watching my own family disappear into the sky, wondering to myself when I would be able to see them again. You too, darling, our mother. Certainly you can understand how ill I have been feeling since yesterday after the incident. On a happier note, my husband and children got to Bangkok without any problem and are staying in some shelter waiting for the next plane to California. Duong has been quite diligent in contacting me via phone until recently when the entire system went down. He promised to get the same helicopter to come back and get me soon in the next few days. I know my Duong. He is a good and able man. I believe him when he says he is coming for me. So I'm waiting, and I am not hopeless. I am writing to you with a proposal that you can't possibly refuse, as I understand more than anyone else does that you don't have much of a choice at this time. Actually, it was Duong's idea, and it is quite a simple exchange. I need an ID, and you need a way out. Together, we can help fulfill each other's tasks. You can give me your mother's passport and her ticket to America. Auntie told me over the phone this afternoon that she wasn't planning to go anywhere, so I assume that she won't need her papers anytime soon. When Duong returns with the helicopter, which he will, your family can be escorted with me to Bangkok. From there, I will continue to play the role of your relative until we get to California. Once we get there, you can choose to go your own way if you wish, or you can stay with us as long as you want. In either case, we promise to be the best company you and your children will ever have. Please understand we have to act fast because time is running out. I am sending over this letter with one of my strongest men to guide you back to my place. When you arrive here, we will immediately be heading toward the embassy tower. I have ways to get us all inside. Help me find my children. You are all the hope I have left. May the Buddha watch over us. Sincerely yours, Mrs. Win Duong. After my mother read the entire letter aloud, she looked up at my grandparents and raised one of her eyebrows in the form of a question. No one spoke. Finally, my mother broke the uneasy silence. So, Daddy, what do you think I should do? Like the woman said in the letter, you don't have much of a choice, daughter, unless you want to keep the kids here, which I don't think you really want to do. So if I were you, I would pull myself together and get over there immediately. The bags under my grandfather's eyes seemed to sag lower and darker with each word he said. My grandmother agreed with him. You have to give it another fighting chance as much as you can while you still can. Take my passport and go. What about Luan? I asked. My own voice startled me as it bounced through the room like a ping-pong ball. Luan will stay here to take care of us. Isn't that right, Luan? My grandfather spoke for her. His eyes stared right at her. The look expressed more than the words he said. Yes, sir, Luan replied. She looked neither disappointed nor sorrowful. Her eyes fixed on the floor and remained there long after we left. We said our goodbyes dispiritedly and walked into the dark with Mrs. Duong's bodyguard. From across the street, the clock on Our Lady's Cathedral struck 3 times. Getting to Mrs. Duong's house was not a difficult task, as her place was located about 2 blocks away. It took less than 5 minutes and a few turns before we were at her doorstep.